You ever feel like no one in your family sees you? Like you're invisible? Like they're ashamed of you just for being who you are? Yeah, that was me. The girl they laughed at, whispered about, and left out of every single thing. But guess what? They made one huge mistake. They underestimated me. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever been judged, ignored, or underestimated. Trust me, this story is for anyone who's been told they're not enough and how to flip the script. I was the black sheep, and I mean that in every sense. My skin was darker than most in the family, and from the day I could remember, that made me a target. Not once did they try to hide it. They laughed at me, whispered behind my back, made me feel like a shadow in my own home. Birthdays? I was there, physically, but erased. Gatherings? I'd sit at the edge of the room watching everyone else laugh while I became invisible. My cousins got the jokes, the hugs, the attention. I got comparisons. Constant, cruel comparisons. Why can't you be more like? Every word felt like a knife. Every glance, a reminder that I didn't belong. And it wasn't just little stuff. Names, nicknames, remarks about my skin, about my looks, about the fact that in their eyes, I would never measure up. I carried this weight everywhere. My own mother sometimes laughed too, maybe out of habit, maybe out of discomfort. I didn't know. All I knew was I felt small, invisible, worthless. I hated family dinners. I hated holidays. I hated opening the mail only to see invitations that I was technically invited to, but subtly excluded from. And the worst part? I stayed silent. I didn't fight back. I cried in secret. I nursed my anger quietly. Here's the thing about being underestimated. You notice, you watch, you learn, you plan. School became my refuge. Books became my friends. I studied harder than anyone, working late nights in a cramped room lit only by a flickering desk lamp. I learned skills they would never expect me to know. Finance, tech, strategy, negotiation. Every time someone belittled me, it fueled something inside. Every whispered insult, every sneer became motivation. And then life handed me an opportunity I didn't even know I wanted. Our family business, the one they always talked about, the one they always called ours, like it was a legacy they owned, was crumbling. Sales were dropping. Accounts were a mess. Suppliers were threatening to pull out. And the people running it, the very same people who treated me like I didn't exist, yeah, they were clueless. It started small. My uncle calling me one evening, voice tight with desperation. Hey, we need someone to look at the books. Can you help? I paused. My heart thumped. Every instinct screamed, this is your moment. But I had to play it cool. I had to act like I was just helping, not plotting the ultimate reckoning. I walked into that office, dusty files stacked high, calculators beeping in vain, computers that hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. I rolled up my sleeves, smiled politely, and got to work. And that's when the first whisper started. Wait, she actually knows what she's doing? I didn't say a word. I let them sweat, let them watch, let them realize slowly, painfully, that the useless girl they mocked had become indispensable. But that was only the beginning. They had no idea what was coming next. And neither did I fully, because saving their business was one thing. Teaching them a lesson? That was the real game. Once I started working on the family business, I realized just how deep the mess ran. And I don't mean a little chaos. I'm talking about years of negligence, favoritism, and pure laziness that had piled up like garbage in a closet nobody wanted to open. Every contract was outdated, every client complaint ignored, every expense unchecked. And the irony? The same people who had treated me like a joke, the same people who whispered and laughed behind my back, were now looking at me like I was some kind of miracle worker. It was intoxicating, but it wasn't enough to just fix their mess. That would have been too easy. No, I wanted them to feel it, the weight of having underestimated me for so long. I wanted them to understand deep down that the girl they had mocked was the only reason their empire wasn't crumbling completely. But it wasn't simple. They resisted me. They questioned every decision. Are you sure about this? Maybe we should check with someone else. This doesn't make sense. Every word, every pause felt like a test. And in a way, it was. At first, I doubted myself too. Those nights were the hardest. Lying awake, heart racing, replaying every insult, every laugh, every time I was told I wasn't good enough. My hands would shake while I ran numbers, and my mind would whisper, maybe they were right. Maybe I'm not enough. But then I remembered something. Underestimated people have an advantage. Nobody expects us to fight back. Nobody watches our moves closely. Nobody anticipates our strategy. And that's exactly what I was going to use. I started keeping meticulous records, not just of finances, but of every slip-up, every lazy mistake, every unethical shortcut my family members had taken over the years. I documented everything. Every late payment, every ignored client, every contract that could have been salvaged but wasn't. I even started compiling screenshots of their own arrogant emails and texts where they bragged about cutting corners. By the time I had a full picture, I realized something incredible. I held all the cards. And it wasn't just about saving the business anymore. It was about proving to them and to the world that they had been blind, cruel, and small-minded. The tension escalated when they started noticing how effective I was. They couldn't ignore me anymore, and that brought a new kind of frustration. My uncle, who had been the loudest about my supposed uselessness, started snapping at employees, muttering under his breath, and sneering at me in the hallways. My cousins tried subtle digs, sarcastic comments meant to unnerve me, but I stayed calm, cool, focused. I had to be, because this was more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. This was a psychological battlefield. Every conversation, every meeting, every handshake became a strategic maneuver. I was learning their weaknesses, their impatience, their arrogance, their need for recognition, and I was planning to use them. Sleep became a luxury. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the adrenaline and anxiety mixing to the strange cocktail that made me feel alive. My stomach churned at night, thinking about what would happen if I slipped up, if they discovered I wasn't just fixing things, but quietly plotting my rise. My fingers ached from late-night typing, my eyes burned from spreadsheets and documents, but the fire inside me kept me moving. And here's the beautiful part. They had no clue. They still laughed at me sometimes, the occasional snicker when they thought I wasn't looking, but I saw it all. Every small gesture, every whispered remark, I was storing it up, and it was going to fuel every move I made in the next phase. The struggle wasn't just external, it was internal too. Every day I had to fight the voice that said, why bother? That said, you'll never belong here. But I kept pushing, reminding myself, they made me feel small. They underestimated me. And underestimated people, we're dangerous. One day, as I was reorganizing the client database, my uncle stormed in, red-faced, looking for an argument. "What are you doing? Why are you changing all these numbers?" he barked. I looked up, calm as a storm before it hits. "I'm fixing your mess," I said. He froze. That one sentence, it cut him deeper than any insult ever could. And I realized I was no longer just surviving in their world. I was taking it over, quietly, methodically, and they didn't even see it coming. By now, they were starting to realize I wasn't the same girl they laughed at. But what they didn't know was that this was just the warm-up. The real plan, the one that would leave them shocked, humiliated, and forced to respect me, was about to begin. The moment I realized I held all the cards, something in me shifted. Not in a cartoon villain, mwahaha type of way. No, it was quieter, colder, cleaner. Like when you finally understand a puzzle you've been staring at your whole life. And the puzzle was this. My family built their identity around being better than me, smarter than me, lighter than me, more worthy than me. So what happens when the girl they looked down on is the only one who can save them? That question became my anchor, my motivation. My revenge wasn't loud, it wasn't messy, it wasn't violent. It was strategic. I started by understanding their weaknesses. My uncle, desperate to be respected in the community. He lived for appearances. My aunt, obsessed with money. She counted every dollar twice and bragged about every dollar she's saved. My cousins, entitled, fragile egos, terrified of being seen as incompetent. These weren't just personality traits. These were pressure points, soft spots, levers I could pull whenever I needed. So I built my plan around those weaknesses. I made myself the hero, publicly. Every improvement I made in the business, every fixed account, every revived client relationship, every cost-saving strategy, I documented. And then I emailed the entire team, not my family members, the employees, the people who'd been screwed over, ignored, overworked, and underpaid by my perfect relatives for years. I wrote, "Just completed the restructuring of the vendor accounts. Here's the before-after comparison. We saved $82,000 this month alone." I didn't brag. I didn't gloat. I just presented facts. Clean, undeniable facts. The staff started thanking me. Clients started emailing directly to compliment me. Vendors who had once refused to work with my family were suddenly calling me by name. And as the praise rolled in, my family grew quiet. Too quiet. Nothing terrifies insecure people more than seeing the person they underestimated rise and rise and rise. I built alliances, quietly. I helped the receptionist rewrite her resume. I covered for the accountant when he made a mistake. I brought the warehouse manager coffee on the worst day of the quarter and told him, "We're going to fix this mess together." I wasn't sucking up. I was building a support system, people who would vouch for me, trust me, and believe in me when the time came. I kept collecting receipts every single day. Emails where they blamed each other, screenshots of lazy decisions, financial records showing months of mismanagement, voice recordings of my uncle talking trash about employees, videos of my cousins taking 3-hour lunch breaks. I had enough dirt to bury the business 10 times over. But I wasn't going to destroy it. No, that would have been too easy. My plan was therapy-level revenge. Make them face what they created. Make them need me. Make them choke on their pride until they had no choice left but to respect me. Then came the perfect storm. A supplier threatened to pull a major contract, the kind that kept the business afloat. My uncle panicked harder than I'd ever seen him. He called an emergency meeting, pacing the floor, sweating. "This is a disaster," he yelled. "We're gonna lose everything." The room exploded into arguing, blame flying everywhere. Then the supplier emailed. They said they'd only meet if I was there. Not the managers, not the owners, me. Silence. My uncle turned beet red. My cousins looked stunned. I just said, "I'll see what I can do." I handled the supplier meeting flawlessly. Negotiated terms, restored trust, improved pricing. The supplier shook my hand and said, "Your family's lucky to have you. Honestly, you're the only one who knows what the hell you're doing." Something inside me shifted. Years of pain compressed into power. I let the truth rot their pride slowly. The planning wasn't just about saving the business. It was about watching them realize what they had done, watching them squirm, watching them regret, watching them finally see me. And that slow burn, that quiet recognition in their eyes, that uncomfortable shift in their body language when I walked into a room, it was beautiful. Not cruel, not violent, not loud. It was simply acknowledgement. They started treating me differently. Aunts offering chai like I was royalty. Cousins who once called me darky, shadow, midnight, now texting me fake compliments and asking for help. My dad, the man who compared me to every fairer girl who existed, asked me to help expand the business. Me, the daughter he introduced like an afterthought. And I finally understood. They didn't change. They just couldn't afford to lose me anymore. I looked my dad in the eye and said, "I'll help, but I'm not working for you. I'm working with you. Respect is not optional." He nodded, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. I became the decision maker. I chose the projects. I approved the deals. I trained the staff. And everyone answered to me. The girl they ignored became the woman running the show. And the best part? There were no threats, no yelling, no revenge plot. Just success. Loud, quiet, beautiful, undeniable. My presence became their reminder. My confidence became their guilt. My success became their regret. And honestly, that silence, that uncomfortable, heavy silence they carried every time I walked into the room, that was the sweetest revenge I ever tasted. If this story hit you, if you've ever been treated like the black sheep or pushed aside because of how you look, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe for more real, raw revenge stories told from the heart. We drop new narrations every day, and trust me, the next one might just be the reminder you need of your own worth. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever been treated differently because of your skin or appearance? Did your family ever underestimate you like mine did?